Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. We got a great show lined up. Tons of betting information coming your way. Bryan "the Bangs" Power will be joining us right off the bat. He's got two college football bets to give out, one on the Northern Illinois, Miami, Ohio game, and the second on Wyoming and Boise State. Remember, everyone, Northern Illinois and Miami goes tonight. Ronald Cabang joining us after that. He's got two NBA games. He's going to look at the Celtics and the Cavaliers and the Jazz against the Lakers. And we're going to end the show with Jesse Schule, who has two prop bets for us in the NBA. Steve Merrill will be my co-host today. He'll have a big game breakdown, and I will do a daily presidential address at the end of the show. What NHL hockey game do you guys want me to take apart? Let me know. Before we get into this, I do want to make mention it is $5 Tuesday over at WagerTalk. Every handicapper has a play up for only $5. I had over 400 people purchase my $5 play last week. It was on the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to all of you guys. Thank you for showing me your trust, your loyalty. We all won together. I got another amazing play for you guys today in my $5 package. It is, again, an NFL side bet. It is an NFL ATS bet. I am 63% in these bets over the last 2.5 years. It's only $5. Head over to WagerTalk and grab that play. Let's start. Bryan Power joining us. How are you, my friend?
Well, Prez, you mentioned winning together. I also had the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. 5% max bet for yours truly. So I wish I would have come on the show yesterday. I'm glad to be on the show any day with you, Prez, but I wish I would have come on yesterday because I was coming off a great weekend, another winning week in college, the 5% NFL play I just mentioned. And then I went 0-2 yesterday, which upset me greatly. I unfortunately catered to my worst instincts by taking the Dallas Cowboys. One of these days, I will learn, Prez. I'm 44 years old. Maybe by the time I'm 50, I will learn not to bet these atrocious NFL teams sometimes.
Well, let's talk about the Cowboys real quick, Bri. I just taped the NFL presidential address. So, guys, the NFL presidential address will be up in a few hours. I took apart every single game on the board, and that included the Dallas-Washington game. And now Dallas plus a 10.5. And my takeaway on that game and my analysis went something like this. Pass. Any quick thoughts?
Well, I'm not going to lay double digits, especially in a division game. And again, I have 6 years to learn not to cater to my worst instincts and take these bad teams. I have a few days to convince myself, don't do it, BP. Don't do it, BP.
Right.
We'll probably lay off the Cowboys this week.
So let's do each other a favor, Bryan, and make sure neither of us release the Dallas Cowboys this week. Mm-hmm. And yes, I agree. Yes. It's impossible to find a bet on Washington either. You know, that NFC East, you can't take a minus 10.5 in an NFC East division game. If you want to give money away, do that. Steve Merrill, welcome, dude. I'm glad you made the show.
Yeah, and it's interesting, guys. For what bettors learned, I am going to talk about the public and the NFL and exactly why they continue to crush. So it's actually very correlated to what you guys were just talking about. So I'll save that for a few minutes.
Okay, Bryce, so we got a college football game going tonight. You are a number one college football expert in the last 365 days. You're absolutely rolling in the sport. You've won 12 of your last 15. So I am very interested to hear your opinion. We have Northern Illinois playing Miami, Ohio. Northern Illinois is plus 2.5. How should we bet this game?
Yeah, Prez, not only have I won 12 of my last 15, I've won 55 of my last 80 as well, plus 97.6 units. And I know the back. Ohio University, we're representing them on the program today. I've gotten both MAC weekday picks correct since the last 2 weeks here on the show. Let's try to make it 3 in a row here. This is an important game in the Mid-American Conference, guys. Miami, Ohio, they're part of the three-way tie for first. Northern Illinois, surprisingly, not part of that three-way first place guys. Despite the fact we all remember what they did back in September, they go to South Bend, Indiana. They upset Notre Dame as 28-point underdogs. That was a 3% client play for me. So this is very much a last gasp for NIU to get back into this conference race. They have to be very disappointed where they're at. But let's look at these losses for Northern Illinois, guys. All 4 losses this season have been by 7 points or less. 3 of those, they finished with the edge in total yards. I think tonight is going to be a redemption game, if you will, for Thomas Hammock's team. Quarterback Ethan Hampton, he got hurt in the loss for Toledo. Well, he's back now for the Huskies, and this offense is humming. 7.2 yards per play over the last 2 weeks in a pair of double-digit victories. I did fade Northern Illinois last week, guys, client play at home versus Akron. But they were double-digit favorites. Prez, you and I just talked about not wanting to lay double digits. Well, I didn't want to lay double digits with Northern Illinois for a multitude of reasons last week. One of them, that game was being played in a monsoon. Now, I was a little lucky to cover with Akron because they blocked a punt and returned that for a touchdown. Total yards in that game were 439, 255 in favor of NIU, but I did get the cover with Akron. But remember the week previous, I came on this show, Prez. I said to take Northern Illinois as a short road favorite at Western Michigan. A commenter called that play dog poop. The play was not dog poop. Northern Illinois won the game 42-28. Their defense is not just the best in the MAC, guys. It's top 10 in the country. Yards per play, yards per game allowed. Miami's offense is not as good. Miami trailed Kent State last week. They were the first team all season to trail Kent State in a game. Granted, it was only 7-0. Miami had trouble beating Ball State by margin the week prior, though. I expect an outright victory for Northern Illinois, guys. I will take the points. This is a 3% client play for yours truly.
And it's interesting, Brian, because you said an outright victory for the 2-point dog here. And I was going to ask you, when you get a line below that key number of 3, do you ever, with favorites or underdogs, just play the money line instead? I personally think +2 is a better number than +105, which is the current money line. So I would agree with you there. There's been a lot of talk recently. I know Ralph Michaels has run some numbers on it. With favorites of the 1 to 2 range, you should play the money line instead. I'm kind of old school. I usually play money line with underdogs only, just lay the points. So your thoughts on that in general? And also, I know we say don't tease college football, but this total is only 43 tonight. Northern Illinois might not be the worst teaser in the world from +2 up to +8 as well.
Sure. Look, in the NFL, and I defended this on Twitter, my 5% play, right before you came on, Steve, Prez and I were talking about taking the Bills on Sunday. I played the Bills on the money line Sunday.
So did I.
And I defended that decision. Go back. Obviously, most of our viewers watched that game. What was the margin? Most of the game, it was 2. And then in that last drive, I mean, my God, Prez, if we would, I know how you are at the end of games. I'm the same way.
I was freaking out.
If we would have been laying 2.5 and Kansas City had the ball down 9, Mahomes, I mean, I would have been rolling on the ground even faster than I already was. So, it's funny, Steve, your point is well taken about maybe leaning to the underdogs in these situations. But I think sometimes, as we saw Sunday, even though they wound up winning by 9, Buffalo, I do think there's value playing both favorites and underdogs in the money line. It's a situational thing, right? There's no golden rule. I think you can't paint with one broad stroke across these games. In this instance, if you wanted to take NIU money line, I wouldn't fault you. I do think they are due to win a close game. I mentioned all those close losses they've had. Certainly, I think they're due to win one close, and this could be that.
Yeah, and I want to jump in to discuss this really quick. So Ralph actually did the math for NBA and NFL, not college football. So I want to make that clear. But I do want to say that for me, Steve, it's interesting to hear. So you would be more interested in betting a +205 on a +2.5 on the money line than a -2.5 on the money line. I go the complete opposite way. So I had Buffalo, just like Brian, at -135. I also had Cincinnati, and I took Cincinnati at +1.5. So I actually do it the other way. Now, when Ralph did this chart, he did not look at should you take a +2 on the money line at +105. He looked at it, should you take a -2 or a money line bet. It worked out that any NBA or NFL that was -2 or less, if you took them on the money line, your ROI was 2% greater at the end of the year. So he showed the math that it actually is a better bet to take an NBA team on the money line versus -2 and an NFL team on the money line versus -2. I have no idea whether it is a more effective bet to take a +105 over a +2. But that is certainly worth delving into. But it is also interesting that you and I do the total opposite when it comes to this stuff. So that I just wanted to wade in there. Bryan and Steve, if you have anything to add, go ahead. But let's get into this Wyoming game, +23 against Boise State. I had a monster college football Saturday, lost only one game. My one winner I won in the Boise State game, so that worked out well for me. My one loss, though, was the under first half bet in the Tennessee Georgia game, so that didn't work out. Okay, Bri, are you going with the +23 or are you taking Wyoming on the money line?
Well, this is a game, guys, that I don't think you want to take the money line either way. No. Needless to say, Wyoming, a big underdog in Laramie. Two teams on opposite ends of bad beats last week. I was going to start this by offering my condolences to anyone who had San Jose State +14.5 versus Boise last week. But I guess instead, Prez, I should tip my cap and say, please pass the horseshoe over here because, my goodness, did Boise State steal that cover last week against San Jose State. You had San Jose State leading 14-0 early. They were not trailing in the game until late in the third quarter. But what happens? A late pick six for Boise makes it a misleading 42-21 final.
So Bri.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was on the over 61.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll tell you what, Prez has done it again, ladies and gentlemen. You know who did not do it again last week was Wyoming. I felt that they deserve better than that 24-10 loss at Colorado State last Friday. Final drive, they're getting 9. Their receivers dropped 3 passes in a row. And I'm not talking about contested catches, guys. I know maybe not everyone watched this game. These were guys wide open. Colorado State's defense was letting them drive down the field, and 3 straight plays, Wyoming receivers dropped the ball. Now, typically, Boise's been very good as a favorite of 17 or more. 22-0 straight up the last 22 times in that price range. 18-3-1 against the spread as well. That goes back to 2017. But 2 weeks ago, they did not cover in this price range against Nevada, and that was at home. This is in Laramie. It's a tough place to play, even though Wyoming's 2-8. I know the Cowboys have nothing left to play for, but since they have no bowl game, I think Wyoming treats this as their bowl game. This is going to be their biggest home game of the season against the marquee team from the Mountain West. Remember, Boise just needs to keep winning, not necessarily winning by margin to get that G5 spot in the college football playoff. Give me the points with Wyoming. I think that would be a just outcome after what happened to these two teams last weekend.
It's Bryan Power talking about a team that Arthur DeCesar told us back in the summer when we were on the show here was getting a lot of wise guy action, both season win overs, national championship futures, and that was Boise State. And it looks like that's going to be in play. And I don't think necessarily anybody thinks they're going to win the whole thing, but you get in that 12-team playoff mix, you can start hedging, and there's definitely some sharp tickets out there on Boise State. Bryan, of course, they've got next week Oregon State to finish out at home, and then they will pretty much be in a very good situation. By the way, guys, there are 3 undefeated teams remaining in the top 25 playoff rankings: Army, Indiana, and, of course, Oregon. And there are 8 more one-loss teams, and Boise is one of those. Bryan, when all is said and done, is Boise in the playoff? And do you think they can make any noise, or do we start hedging those tickets after the first round?
Yes, they will get in, Steve. They absolutely will get into the playoffs. You mentioned the game next. Look, here they're a big favorite here. While I like the points with Wyoming, I still expect the Broncos to win. And then next week, you mentioned the Oregon State game. Oregon State's a corpse. They've given up on the year. This is the worst Oregon State team we've seen in many, many years. Now, stranger things have happened, but I would be shocked if Boise State even won in the first round. Chances are it'll be a road game. Now, their only loss was by 3 points in Eugene against Oregon. That was a game decided on the final play. on a last-second field goal. So I'm not going to write them off. I mean, this is a program. Obviously, the players have changed, the coaching staffs have changed, but this is a program that's been to the the big show before. Very interesting, though, Steve. You mentioned all those undefeated teams that we've got. The three, I should say, we have left in the country. Two of those three teams, undefeateds, are obviously double-digit underdogs this week. Right. So the odds makers think we'll be down to one by Saturday. I will leave that up to others to talk about later in the week.
Bryan Power joining us, everyone. Number one college football expert the last 365 days. Bryan, it's $5 Tuesday. What do you have going for the clients?
Wouldn't you know, I have a $5 play in college football currently available. It is a Saturday game, a 4% best bet. Of course, the $5 deal only extends to midnight Pacific time tonight. So if you want to get on my first move of the week, you have the rest of the day, just $5. Very simple, guys, $5. I always appreciate the support. We look to keep rolling once again. As Prez said, number one this season, number one last 365 days, 55-25 last 80, 12-3 last 15.
Bryan Power, everyone. Great show still coming. Ronald Cabang, 2 NBA bets. Jesse Schule, 2 NBA props. We got Steve Merrill's big game breakdown as well. So yesterday I told everybody I had a horrible 5 days of betting, 4 days of betting. And last night I ended up having a winning night for my clients. My hoops plays, guys, for some reason they're sliding under the radar, and I don't understand why. I won my NBA again last night, 5-1 and 9-2 NBA run. 31-17 run going back last year, and up an insane. I think I'm up 100 units in the last 2.5 seasons of NBA. Won my college basketball last night again. Now up double-digit profit this college basketball season, and up. I made 66 units last year, double digits the year before. Please, guys, do not sleep on my basketball. I know I don't do the follow-up questions. I know I don't do college basketball NBA breakdowns on this show, but I study these sports and I know these sports, and I'm in the top 3 of these sports on WagerTalk. So I just wanted to make mention because yesterday I was in such a foul mood, and I just wanted to show even with those 4 crappy days, I'm still kicking freaking ass. Steve Merrill, what did bettors learn?
Yeah, just want to talk about the NFL a little bit more. You know, of course, I do my Fade the Public video every weekend here in the channel. Click subscribe, click the bell for an instant alert so you never miss out. And I started it 4 years ago when I first joined WagerTalk TV, like right around now, about mid-November. And that first season, we went 31-8, fading the most public sides all the way through the Super Bowl. And obviously, it took on a life of its own, and I've kept doing the video. I was hesitant to do it at the start of the season and the next year because I know it doesn't work as well early in the season, and it's pretty much been 500 most of the first halves of the season over the years. But this year has really been crazy. You know, the month of October, there was a point, I think it was a 4-week run where the most public plays in that video went 18-6 against the spread. And we've talked about it also here on the show. You know, Arthur said at the Westgate that they had, a tough time with favorites cashing. DraftKings reported a third-quarter loss. Now, DraftKings also reported a third-quarter loss last year, so let's keep that in perspective. A lot of it's because of their marketing expenses, but they said it was a bigger-than-expected loss. In fact, it was about a 60% versus 40% difference in the estimates, and the big reason they missed by so much, and they even cited this, is because NFL favorites covered so much in the month of October. So now we're in November. We're in the heart of the season where Fading the Public usually starts to work. So what do? Well, I think we still tread very lightly, and I've said that in my video every week, and this past week's another example. You just can't play bad teams in the NFL. And Prez, you and Bryan Power were talking about this earlier. I mean, the Cowboys last night, Houston was a public play. They were coming off a loss. The most public play of the week was the Minnesota Vikings, also coming off a bad showing the week before, and they covered against a really bad Tennessee team. You look at the Detroit Lions. They blew out the Jags. You just can't play these bad NFL teams. And while it seems a little too easy, I don't know if we just start laying these numbers now either, because a week before, half of the teams that failed to cover as public plays actually won straight up, but they didn't cover. And it's interesting because when I started this video 4 years ago, one of the reasons it went 31-8 is because the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day made the video almost every single week, and they were winning but not covering. And we've seen Kansas City win every game by 7 or less this year, except twice. So pick and choose your spots. Use it as a filter. What I still look for is to play quality teams. For example, the one fade the public spot I thought that worked was the previous Sunday night against Detroit, because the Texans are a quality team, and we're getting them as a 3.5-point home dog. The week before, the line was 2.5. It was 3.5 all week, and guess what? They lost by exactly 3. So that line difference did come into play there. And also last week, you look for a catalyst maybe. One of the public dogs that did cover, or one of the fade the public plays that covered last week was the Bears. And I wouldn't say they're a good team, but they're not a god-awful team like Tennessee, Jacksonville, Dallas. And also they had a catalyst, a new offensive coordinator in Thomas Brown. So if you're going to fade the public, I think you want to do so with either a semi-quality team with a competent quarterback or a team that has a catalyst where something has changed. Otherwise, be very careful. Maybe just stay off these games. That's, for the most part, what I do going forward.
Steve Merrill, everybody. Yeah, that video is really well received, man. Congratulations. That's one of the top videos we have at the website. And it's like, how long? 6 minutes or something?
Yeah, about 4 to 5 games a week. You know, I say the most public sides, and sometimes I agree with the public. I try to let you know if I think we should play them or fade them. But what people have to realize is you don't just blindly fade the public. In fact, if you had, you've done quite poorly this year. But there are certain subsets, like I just mentioned, quality teams, fading public dogs, or using a catalyst like a coaching change. But be very careful. A team like the Jags, man, it looks like they've quit on the season. And Dallas, you know, the Titans, the one common denominator is, you know, Prez, really bad quarterbacks. And when they get behind, they just can't catch up.
There seems to be a lot of that these days, Steve
More
Merrill.
than I've ever
Let's
seen.
turn our, yeah, for 100%. Let's turn our attention to NBA. Let's bring Ronald Cabang in. Ronald, how are you, man? Nice to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks. Always glad to be on here. Not on here often, so when I get a chance to, I like to show out. But yeah, NFL's been great. NBA took a step back yesterday, but you know, hopefully we get back on track. We were on a good run during the weekend, though.
Yeah, that you are, Ron. And listen, dude, we're all gonna have bad days. Cleveland, Boston. This is a great game you chose. 11-4 ATS Cleveland Cavaliers against the 7-7 ATS Boston Celtics. But more importantly, we got a 15-0 straight up team that is a plus 5.5 dog.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the general public don't love the Cleveland Cavaliers as much as they do the Boston Celtics. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, Boston's usually going to be the public side, whether or not they're the right side or not. You know, Steve talked about fade the public. It's hard to fade the public when you don't know if the sharps are part of that percentage. But looking at this one, you talked about them being 15-0 on the Cavs side. This is the first leg of back-to-back games. They have the Pelicans tomorrow, so not much of a look ahead. The Celtics, they're coming off an overtime game against the Raptors a few days ago. And to me, I feel like that was a clear sign that they were probably looking ahead to this game. This is also a cup game. They did lose their first game to Atlanta outright, so they are going to want to win here if they're taking the cup tournament seriously. Boston is a bit more healthier than Cleveland at the moment right now too. But one of the things that I think Boston is the right side, but I took the total on this one. This one opened up at 229.5. I saw some 236s right before the show here, and I think it's gone up a bit too high. I think this is where you start to buy back on that total to the under. This looks to me like a playoff atmosphere type game. Both teams focused on defense, making each possession count. Both teams clearly known for their offense. Cavs first in the league in offensive rating, second in the league for the Celtics. But at the same time, both top 10 in defensive rating. Both take care of the ball really well. They don't send opponents to the free throw line. Neither possess a high offensive rebounding rate. So those are second chance opportunities, free throw line, free chances at the free throw line that limit points. So under 236 is the way I would go on this one.
Ronald Cabang talking a little bit of NBA. And Ron, I've got a theory here, and I've talked about this for a little bit. When the Cavs finally lose, and it very well could happen tonight, do we fade them in the short term afterwards? You know, because it's so much about showing up on a given night. I think you want to keep winning, right? But when you finally get that loss, and tomorrow in New Orleans, is that a possible letdown spot? Either way, I mean, if they keep winning, I guess
100%.
they want to keep winning. But if they lose this game tonight, what's your thoughts on that game tomorrow night?
No, that makes a lot of sense. They lose tonight. Everyone's going to want that bounce back on their side. The line's probably going to be double digits,
Right.
at the very least. So that's a spot that you could look towards the Pelicans. And, obviously they might not win the game, but to be able to stay within a double digit number after, somewhat of an emotional letdown on the Cavs side, if they do lose tonight, that's definitely a spot to take the underdog in.
Ronald Cabang, let's go straight to the Lakers. They're hosting the Jazz. How are you betting this game?
Yeah, this one was pretty simple, Cap, in my opinion. So I use the moneyballer.com. That's the site I use to handicap the NBA and the NFL right now. And all I saw was red on the Jazz side, meaning the Jazz are really struggling both offensively and defensively. This is the third game in 4 nights. The Lakers coming off a poor performance offensively against the Pelicans. And to me, I was looking at that game. I was like, what happened? They only scored 104 points against the Pelicans, who are 28th in the league defensive rating. Second leg of back-to-back games with travel. They were also very shorthanded. They're going to get some guys back today. But at the same time, they're very well rested coming into this one. And then even though they're 1-0 in the cup games, they sit second in the standings because of point differential to the Thunder. So this should be an easy win for the Lakers. They should want to win by margin because of the tiebreaker rule as well. I think the Lakers bounce back offensively in this spot. Jazz 29th in the league in defensive rating, allowing 118 points per game. The Lakers, on the other hand, 8th best in effective field goal percentage in the league, with a majority of their shots in the paint, while the Jazz are 29th in effective field goal percentage allowed and bottom 10 in defending in the paint. And then even worse, with Kessler out today. So to me, I feel like the only path to victory for the Jazz is free throw rate, number 1 in the league in free throw rate. But if you look at the opposite side, who's number 2? It's the Lakers. So that's going to cancel each other out. A lot of things are really towards the Lakers right now to win by margin and cover the large spread.
I'm asking 2 general questions here. First of all, this home road dichotomy with the Lakers has been pretty extreme this year. They've been very good at home, not as good on the road. So first of all, do you read much into that? We saw that with the Warriors a few years ago. Then it completely reversed last year. But also the cup games is tonight and then Friday, I believe. Do you handicap any differently with this soccer-like tournament that nobody understands?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you got to look into, you got to read into the players' mindsets, right? Figure out who's taking the game seriously, who's not. To me, I think the Lakers are one of those teams who will be taking it seriously. LeBron doesn't have a lot of time left in the league. This is his opportunity to get some type of championship with the cup games. I mean, they did it a couple of years ago, right? In the bubble, so they're used to winning in these weird, one-off situations or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the tiebreaker rule is very important in these group stages because of the point differential. So I think that's one thing to take into account when you look at these larger spreads. If you see a team way better than the other team, that you see a double-digit line, don't shy away from them just because of that. Because of the tiebreaker rule, they need to win by margin.
Ronald Cabang. Ronald, what do you have to promote?
Right now, number 1 in the NFL. We have a combo with Andy Lang, who's I believe he's still number 1 in the NBA. I'm not 100% sure, but at the time we put it together, he was number 1. So number 1 NFL, number 1 NBA. Put that together, we have a combo for the all access for the rest of the year, I believe, on the website right now, wt.buzz/RC. So check out that promo. Also, number 1 in the last 2.5 months or so overall. So a lot of things going well for me right now. And the 5% plays, 4% plays and up have been really great. 70% over the last couple months on 4% or greater. And I have a 4% play for the $5 Tuesday. So go ahead and check that out at the site.
There we go. And Andy Lang is number 2 in profit. Dwayne Bryant just took the number 1 spot last night. Steve Merrill and some dude named the Prez right behind Andy Lang. Steve, what's your big game breakdown?
Yeah, I'm going to do one of these Tuesday night games here we haven't talked about. Let's look at a free play here in the Tuesday night Mac Attack. I believe this is the ESPN2 game. There's 3 games tonight. This one's at 7:30 Eastern. Western Michigan, Central Michigan. As we check the WagerTalk live odds screen, we will see that Western Open is about a 7-point touchdown road favorite with the extra point. Now it's a -6, just a touchdown road favorite. So a little bit of money's come in on Central. We've also seen the total rise a bit from 55.5 up to 56.5. First thing we always do is we look at the scheduling spot here. Are these teams used to playing these Tuesday, Wednesday night games? And yes, they are. This is actually the third straight Tuesday night game for Central Michigan. They have not fared well going 0-2 their last two. In fact, they've dropped 5 straight going back all the way to late September. Haven't won a game in over a month and a half. And meanwhile, Western is playing back-to-back weeknight games. They had a Wednesday and then a Tuesday last week. They also dropped both of those games. So two teams that have not performed well so far in these games. And turnovers have been a big issue. Western Michigan's had 5 turnovers. Central's had 6, including 5 last week at Toledo in that blowout loss. As far as the matchup in this game, Western does run the ball well, over 5 yards per carry this year. They also throw the ball well. Pretty good offense. And I do think they'll have some success moving the ball against a below-average defense with Central Michigan. And Central doesn't throw the ball well, only about 6.5 yards per pass this season. And the big weakness for Western Michigan has been that defense. Maybe they can get enough throws there. Maybe they can take advantage. We have seen some of these weeknight games stay low scoring, but the fact that both teams have played back-to-back now in the weeknight, I think this is more of a normal scheduling spot, and we'll start to see more points. I mentioned how the total's gone from 55.5 to 56.5. But if you look at some of the sharpest books offshore, it's now 57. I agree with that move to the over. If you're going to play this Tuesday night game, take a look at over 56.5 between Western Michigan and Central Michigan. Two really bad defensive teams, and if either team can prevent the turnovers like last week, the offenses will do a lot better. Over the total, 7:30 Eastern tonight on ESPN2. And don't forget, it is $5 Tuesday, instant 80% discount on my top best bet for Tuesday night. Get it right now, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And we did cash in the NBA last night, and that's no surprise, as the NBA is number 1 all-time at WagerTalk, including up over 200 units in the NBA alone the last 3 years. We also have the rest of college and pro football combined through the Super Bowl for just $3.99. So fantastic value with the football season. Don't forget about basketball. Most importantly, don't forget, it's $5 Tuesday. No promo code needed for a top best bet for just $5 tonight. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. You can get there quicker with that shortcut, WT.buzz/SM. And when you're watching Wager Talk TV, do us a favor. Comment below after the videos. We all read the comments. We reply back. And thumbs up, like is always appreciated. And once again, hit subscribe, hit that bell for instant alerts. You know when the free play videos are posted every day right here on Wager Talk TV.
Perfect. Nicely done, Steve Merrill. Jesse Schule still to come. I will take apart the Tampa Bay Pittsburgh hockey game in my daily presidential address. Shout out to Wesley, Emmerich, Meldon, Regina, Charles, Mike, Jim, Ben, Martin, Sal, Frank, Greg, Carey, Matt, Anthony, Ashley. Every one of those people purchased my $5 play since this show begun. It is an NFL ATS bet, and like the one last Tuesday, should win easily. Jesse Schule joining us, everyone. Jesse, welcome to the show. And honestly, Jesse, I'd rather do a cooking show with you.
We were grilling in my backyard last night. We had some nice picanha, smoked for a couple hours on the Weber, and then seared to finish. It was pretty good. There's some pictures on my Twitter page you can check out.
Yeah, no. So where do you live?
I live in the mountains in Thailand, in Chiang Mai. It's sort of a historical capital, former capital with world, heritage sites, temples, no beaches. It's mostly temples.
Nothing wrong with living in a lot of temples. You're on a show with some people who are, temple worthy right now. So do you speak Thai?
I do. Yeah. Every day. Both my kids are Thai. I did spend 10 years in a beach resort in the South. And when I had kids, I had to move to a more civilized area because life in a beach resort is not conducive to happy family life.
Well, Thai food is my second favorite food in the world. I love Penang curry. I love red chicken curry. I love their mango salad. I like their green curry. I'm medium on pad thai. A medium on pad thai.
I was going to ask what heat can you take, because Thai heat is at a different level.
Yes.
Like American hot is like mild for Thai. I mean, I really honestly, Jesse, think all my Thai. I've got a lot of Thai friends, and I think their taste buds are burnt at birth or something, because they'll dumb it down and it's still off the charts. Can you take it? Have you grown accustomed, I guess is what I should ask you. Has it changed since you've been there?
There is Thai people in my neighborhood that think that I eat spicier food than they do. So there's no restriction for me. I'm like an Anthony Bourdain kind of guy. I eat everything and anything. I mean, look at me. Look at how big I am. I love food, and there's no restrictions. Nothing's too spicy.
Well, I'm not with you. I do like spicy food, but there's definitely things that are too spicy. Okay, Jesse, let's get into some betting information. You got a couple of prop bets for us. I don't know where my notes are. I can't find a goddamn thing here. There they are. Jackson Jr. You like
Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Memphis Grizzlies. So Steve asked a pretty good question to Ronald, and I've got a bit of a different perspective. I'll answer the same question. How do you approach these NBA Cup games? Because it is difficult. And myself, I don't want to be betting the sides too heavily in these NBA Cup games, because as Ronald said, you got to really wonder who's motivated, and I don't want to delve into that. So I'm looking at the totals, and it's very difficult to get statistics for these games because the NBA doesn't separate the Cup games. They don't offer standings, and with all the separated statistics, they're all sort of mixed in together. But I did find a few newspaper articles breaking it down from last year, and I did see that there is some significant increase in scoring, specifically in the first round of these NBA Cup games, higher shooting percentages. And as Ronald mentioned, that Cavs Celtics game opened at 229.5. It's been bet up almost 7 points toward the over. So obviously the books are well aware that these games are higher scoring. And that's great when you're betting player prop bets. Guys are going to get more points and more rebounds if they're playing at a faster pace and there's less defensive intensity. And I got my eyes on Jaren Jackson Jr. for the Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies rank second in the NBA in possessions per game, 108 possessions per game, third in the NBA in scoring, 120 points per game. And they got some injuries. Desmond Bane has been banged up. Ja Morant's out of the lineup. Marcus Smart is questionable for tonight's game last time I checked. And that leaves Jaren Jackson Jr. as the guy who needs to carry the load for them. And he's averaging 25.5 points per game in the month of November, in a game where he's likely going to be getting the majority of the shots. For him to go over 20.5 points or 21.5, depending on what line you can get, I think that's a bargain, specifically in what I consider to be an exhibition game. So Jaren Jackson Jr. over his points total is the bet.
Jesse Schule talking a little bit about the NBA, and I find it comical you can't figure out which game of the NBA Cup, because I think this whole thing has been confusing from the start. I don't know why they don't just do it by division and just take a couple weeks and have every team have a divisional winner or something, and we know exactly which games, like you said, the back test were Cup games. Let's keep it going. I like the prop ideas, though, especially the high-scoring prop ideas. Thunder Spurs, you mentioned, Zach Edey is one of those guys injured for Memphis. He's out. So much for his NBA career, which will be very interesting. Chet Holmgren is out for OKC, and Victor Wembanyama is doubtful tonight with a right knee injury. What are you doing? Give us a player prop here in this Thunder Spurs game tonight.
So first off, let's let the public know that I like that Jaren Jackson prop more than I like this Zach Collins prop. But we're going to look at Zach Collins, a backup big man for the Spurs. And as you mentioned, Steve, Wembanyama, he was downgraded from questionable to doubtful. And that has me fairly convinced he's not going to play. And you certainly don't want to have anything to do with this prop if Wemby is playing, because the only way Zach Collins goes over this number is if he's moves into the starting position, gets your 25 to 30 minutes. This is a high number for him. Even when he's played starters minutes, he's only averaging about 6.5 rebounds per game when he's as a starter. But Oklahoma City's front court is so disadvantaged. They rank dead last in the NBA in opponent rebounds per game, dead last in rebounding differential. At the moment, their starting center is 6'6", Jalen Williams. The loss of Chet Holmgren has really hurt this team. They're getting killed on the boards. So even though this number looks a little high, I still think there's good value taking Zach Collins over the 7.5 rebounds. And if you can get a decent price, a good plus money price, a double-double for Zach Collins could be a sneaky play for some plus money.
Jesse Schule. Jesse, what do you have to promote?
How about a 13-1 college basketball run? Is that good, Prez?
Yeah, I think that's freaking outstanding, brother. Well done.
So my $5 play is a college basketball play. 13-1 with my last 14 college basketball. And I also have a 5% NBA total for one of the cup games. You can probably speculate that it's not going to be an under. And I'm 10-3 with my last 13 5% NBA plays. So testing some pretty good streaks tonight.
Okay, there we go. Jesse and Steve, so I mentioned Thai food was my second favorite food. Do you want to take a stab at what my first favorite food is?
Italian.
Jesse?
Is it not steak? I mean, who would ever choose anything other than steak for their favorite food?
Well, I think you're going to have to be ethnic.
So I'm talking ethnically, but yes.
Okay.
Steak is my favorite.
I don't see a lot of good Mexican food in Canada, so I'll go with Italian. And he hangs out with Carmine.
Indian.
So let me respond to both. So Italian food, to me, it's like they got a whole bunch of chefs together 100 years ago, gave them all acid, and said, "How many things can you come up with the same ingredient?"
I'm changing it to French. French is my new guess.
Here is spaghetti. If you hammer it, it's fettuccine. If you twirl it, it's spirelli. If you cut it, it's penne. If you cut it and twirl it, it's some other damn thing. If you flatten it and make it small, it's spaghettini. I mean, it is the least creative goddamn food on the planet. Indian is number one. By far, butter chicken is the single greatest dish on the planet. Garlic naan is like, mwah. If you are lucky enough to find a beef samosa, and I say beef because Indians don't eat cow, but there are some that do beef samosas. Oh my God. Mango lassies. Oh my God. They're lamb.
Fred?
Oh my God. They're women.
You know where the best Indian food in the world is? I bet you don't know where the best Indian food in the world is.
Thailand.
No, Penang, Malaysia. I go there once a year.
Oh, dude. Malaysian Penang, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
But I'm a curry fanatic, Jesse. So when we're talking about Malaysian, Indonesian, Indian, Thai, I mean, we're talking about art, food art. Like, honestly, these chefs, the intricacy, for instance, in a red chicken curry, the intricacy, the talent and technique required, it's certainly
we're gonna have
not
to go out for dinner, because I'm in full agreement with you.
Yeah, well, dude, I would love to go out for dinner with you, and I would prefer to do it at your house. Steve, anything you want to add?
No, I've just become extremely hungry, very hungry, and yeah.
And just for the record, Steve, just for the record, Mexican food is the same as Italian food. It's how many things can you make up with 5 ingredients? If you take if you take a taco, which is an open shell, and you close the shell, it's a burrito. If you then take the closed taco burrito and you flatten it, it's a quesadilla. It's the same damn thing. Okay.
I would agree. I think Mexican is very simplistic. I'm not a big pasta guy, so I agree with you on the Italian. Where Italian can be pretty good is with the meats and stuff, but that's more like grilled things. But yeah, the Asian food I think has more variety probably than the other types of food that we have. Maybe a little French as well. English food, Name one thing other than like fish and chips. I just said other than fish and chips. So that was my that was the catch there.
I don't mind bangers and mash. I don't mind bangers and mash. What I don't understand is the Yorkshire pudding. It's not pudding. It's probably not Yorkshire, and it's eaten with meat. I don't understand that dish at all. I honestly think that Canadian and North American food lacks creativity, but nothing is worse than Mexican food. And I'm not trying to start with Mexican.
I had some really good Southern fried chicken last night with the Southern green beans with the ham hock cooked in it and mac and cheese. So Southern food can be pretty good. Not good for you, but pretty good.
Southern food is unbelievable. I love Cajun and blackened spice, and I love fried chicken. Gus's chicken is the best fried chicken. Is the best fried chicken in the world. It started in Memphis. They have slowly expanded. I think there's 14
Gus's
of them.
fried chicken? I'm not familiar with that. Ooh,
there's probably one around you, bro, because they did.
That's why I'm wondering. I'm intrigued.
They did expand. There is, I think, 14 of them, but Gus's fried chicken is absolutely spectacular. Dan wants us to go. He's like, what are we talking about now? You know what, Dan? Not everybody can cook as good as you, and both of us are hungry, and I am having a falafel today. Guys, Steve Merrill will be sitting in for me on Thursday and Friday as I'm going back to the Bahamas. He'll also be hosting on Monday. Thank you for doing that, Steve. Love having you with us. Daniel's son, it's time for the daily presidential address. Welcome, everybody, to the daily presidential address. I've got an NHL bet to give out. Plus, I'll give you a bonus bet as well. We're going to talk Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. Before we do that, I got to make mention that it is $5 Tuesday over at WagerTalk. Every handicapper has signaled out a play that you can get for only $5. Mine is an NFL ATS bet. Last Tuesday, my $5 play was the Buffalo Bills. It won easily. I've got another one just as good for this coming Sunday. It is an NFL ATS bet. I'm 63% in those plays over the last 2.5 years, and it is only $5 over at WagerTalk. Okay, Pittsburgh tonight, 7-10 on the season, hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Tampa Bay is playing really good. This Tampa Bay team just had 2 big victories. They beat the New Jersey Devils 4-0, and they beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-1. They are 8-1 combined in their last 2 games against their competition, and they're playing the lowly Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Pittsburgh did just win a game 4-3 against San Jose, but winning a game in overtime against San Jose counts as a loss to me. Before that, they lost 3 in a row: Columbus, Detroit, and Dallas, and they got annihilated in all 3 of those games. So where are we going tonight? Well, it sounds like a play on the Tampa Bay Lightning, but it isn't. It's a play on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they are plus 135. So there's a nice live dog for you guys. The bottom line here is this is not so much a play on Pittsburgh as it is a play against Tampa Bay. This Tampa Bay team, as I've mentioned, just won 2 big games in a row. And both of them were against really talented hockey teams. Tampa Bay is going to fight with New Jersey for a playoff spot. And Pittsburgh and Winnipeg came into Tampa Bay only having lost 1 game. So they had to get up big time for those 2 games. And I think it's going to be tough for them to find that emotional oomph to get up against the shitty Pittsburgh Penguins. Plus, Pittsburgh needs to win. If you listen to what they're saying coming out of their locker room, this is a team that thinks they're better than they are. This is a team that with Carlson and Malkin and Crosby and Letang, this is a team that thinks they're a playoff team. They cannot keep losing hockey games. They have to win this game. They're at home. They're playing a Tampa Bay Lightning team that's in a shitty spot, and they are plus 135. I like Pittsburgh tonight. And as a bonus play, guys, I like the Chicago Blackhawks in regulation. Again, this is not a play on the Blackhawks. This is a play against the Ducks. The Ducks just beat Dallas in Dallas 4-2. This is a huge letdown spot for Anaheim. I like Chicago in regulation at -120. That's it for the daily presidential address. I have 2 college basketball plays, 1 NBA total, and 2 NHL plays up for my clients tonight. I'm on a 9-2 NBA run. I'm up profit in NBA. I'm up profit in college basketball. And I'm down slightly in NHL. After I win my 2 tonight, I will be up. Guys, thanks for watching these shows. Lots of love, and we'll see you tomorrow.